It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
What's up, everybody? It's Sunday night, June 8th, 2025. Welcome to your latest sit down. I am Don Tony. Hope everybody has their gabagool in their hand. Hope everyone is having a good weekend. Boy, I'm a little bit exhausted with all the wrestling that has been on my television since Friday. Between TNA and AAA and NXT and WWE, and I haven't even checked out AEW as of yet. Shout out to Fort G, who's wishing everybody good morning, which means that he's either living in a different country or he might be on something I would like for him to ship to me. P.O. Box 140128, Howard Beach, New York, 11414-0128. I have not even checked out indie promotions or anything like that, but Steve Joseph, thank you for the 2 spot. Can I do a show with Baseball Chickie? I haven't even ever spoken to Baseball Chickie. So, if I ever speak to her, it's a possibility. You never know, but never ever talked to her before. I know she was very close with Kev, and I know she is grieving dearly for Kev, and as we still all are. I tell you, it's still hard to comprehend that, man. It's still hard. Monday nights, even when I prepare, I said this last week, I feel guilty saying my show or me or I, so used to we. Even those couple of years that we were not together, it was still felt strange, man. Something to get used to. But look, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Obviously, Sundays is the lazy show. I sit here, I get into whatever you all want to talk about, but obviously there's a couple of things that need to be discussed right off the bat. And listen, one thing you guys know, I don't BS, I don't clickbait. Yes, I may get predictions wrong. I opine, I analyze, I give you my honest thoughts. I will never, ever, ever use your emotion to get additional views or attention or try to strike a nerve. That unfortunately, that is the recipe for a lot of others out there. And, case in point, I got to give a special shout out to Police Squad, who sent me this funny 50. I like to call it the funny 50. Right before we went live, he wrote, 25 for predicting that WWE re-signed R-Truth. Hold that thought. 25 for comparing it to Drake Maverick last week, which I did. 25 for predicting that Alberto El Patron, Alberto Del Rio, gets the Benoit treatment. I wouldn't say the Benoit treatment, but he would be scrubbed. And you saw that yesterday at Worlds Collide. And 25 for predicting that Cody would pin John Cena. And then he took 50 of it away since I got both the ladder match predictions wrong. So instead of me getting a 1 spot, I got a 50 instead. That's okay. Much love. I appreciate it. Listen, obviously, everybody is talking about this R-Truth situation. Now, we got some fake news to get into tonight. We got some clips to share, but I definitely want to open up talking about this R-Truth situation. And listen, if you follow me for a long time, you know that people will see something and they will try to come up with these insane different scenarios. They think they're onto something. And then what happens is they're wrong and everybody forgets about it. Just like Del Rio was the first person that WWE signed with the AAA merger. JBL was going to be at Worlds Collide yesterday until he had an appearance somewhere else outside of California, and he can't be in two places at the same time. So my sources tell me JBL will not be there. Savio Vega will have something to do on the show. What did I say last week? He'll be sitting ringside. Did I have sources? No. It's because if people would just use their brain instead of this, the only way you'll tune into me, the only way you'll subscribe to me, the only way you'll buy my Patreon is if I say my sources, my sources, my sources, my sources. Last week, I said on the Monday show that this R-Truth situation reminds me so much of Drake Maverick when he was let go. And even Kevin, God rest his soul, gave Drake Maverick $100 on Cameo and wrote to him and said, we don't want no video. We just wanted to show support because we really enjoy what you do. And he sent us a video anyway. And he even said on the video, he's like, I know you guys don't want a video, but I really thank you for it. I still got the video. It felt so much like Drake Maverick. And I said, my prediction is they're going to bring him back, maybe a little bit different of a contract, or we're going to find out that either he wanted demands that they were not willing to give, or they wanted him to maybe become an agent or something else, and he's not yet ready to pack his boots up. Now, what's the controversy? This thumbnail. I got the email today. On sale. Check out the new Ron Killings shirt. Well, now the same people that got so much shit wrong is now saying, my sources tell me that Ron Killings, in structuring his new contract with WWE, insisted that he be called Ron Killings more, so when he is ultimately fired and he goes on the indies, that people know who he is. Take that gabagool and stick it up my ass if that's true. Ron Killings has been around for 20 fucking years. Everybody and their godmother, unless they're brain dead, an ounce away from dying, knows that R-Truth is Ron Killings. If R-Truth would have showed up in TNA, he'd be Ron Killings. If he showed up in AEW, he'd be, I don't know, the truth shall set you free. He wouldn't be called R-Truth anywhere else. So, again, I said this last week. The only people that know what's going on with contract negotiations is Nick Khan, TKO Group Holdings, Triple H, the wrestler, their agent, their immediate family. That's it. That's it. You look at how many wrestlers in WWE, in AEW, all across the globe that went public last week showing their love for R-Truth. They had no idea. So they have no sources, but WrestlingVirgin.com suddenly knows all the contract negotiations. These are people that see that thumbnail and said, why are they calling him Ron Killings? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I got an idea. I got to brainstorm. So do not buy any of that shit. But I will say this. Until, and let me also say this too. Mariah May. I played it on Wednesday's news update. Last Monday, I said, we will not, this was my exact words, we will not know when Mariah May pops up in WWE until she's on television. No one was going to get the scoop. No one got the scoop. So I say this now about R-Truth. Until you hear R-Truth, Ron Killings, whatever you want to call him, until you hear him say out of his mouth, or telling Chris Van Vliet, or Ariel Helwani, or Little Jimmy, until you hear out of his mouth I re-signed with WWE. Do not jump to conclusions. No, I am not trying to be a Jonathan Coachman and say that there's, and listen, I love Coach. I'm not trashing him, but suddenly, all these, we'll get to Vince McMahon later. We'll get to that later. Until you hear it come out of R-Truth's mouth, because it didn't come out of Triple H's mouth yesterday. Pinocchio. And why did Triple H go, it's part of the show. It's part of the show. Did you like the show? It's part of the show. Do you know why? Oof. I dropped a whole bunch of water on my nuts. On my gabagool. All right, calm down. Take note. Do not pay it. Listen, I'm not stroking the penis of Fightful. I'm not trying to give Sean Sapp a hand job. I do my own thing. I give credit where I deem necessary, and I will criticize when necessary. He said it on point. WWE is not going to work their own wrestlers and is to this point. And R-Truth certainly is not going to fucking lie to all of his close people that he absolutely loves in wrestling to work a storyline. It ain't happening. This is not a work. This is not a storyline. If you remember the Drake Maverick situation, yeah, Drake Maverick is not on the level of R-Truth. We get that. But this was not difficult. The guy's been there for 17 years. Do you think they have to come out with this major complicated contract for R-Truth? No, they know. They have an idea. This is pretty much a picture as far as, so I say this with nothing but respect intended. They were on point that you don't work that many people to that level, okay? The thing with R-Truth is simple, okay? If you use common sense, which is all I do, sometimes, I get a nugget here and there. I'll ask someone for some clarification or news, and I get it, but I prefer to use my brain because what ends up happening, hey, my brain actually still works a little bit. R-Truth, a week ago, said that WWE was not renewing his contract. Well, he said he was released, but the truth was, R-Truth's contract was not being renewed. His contract wasn't expiring June 1st. You don't know when in the month of June his contract was expiring. Carlito is still under contract. If you do a Google search and look back 2 years, you could find out when Carlito actually signed with WWE. It's not hard. So just because R-Truth is being let go, he still had time left on his contract. What happens? Remember, the Hardys had a shirt on WWE Shop when they showed up in NXT a month ago. Are the Hardys under WWE contract? No. So all I'm saying to you is until R-Truth, Ronald Killings, whatever you want to call him, until you hear out of his mouth in an interview, I re-signed the contract with WWE. This could very well be his last appearance. He may still have a week or two left on his contract, and because he's a good guy and they trust him and he wants the closure, and for the love of Cena and, and going out on top on the WWE. I'm not saying that that's the case. All I'm saying is until you hear it out of the horse's mouth, do not convince yourself 100% one way or the other. Because there were people telling you 3 days before Mariah May debuted in NXT that AEW said that she was still on the roster. I don't think people would lie like that. You had people saying, oh, her contract's up in October. She won't be on WWE TV until October. So you don't know until you hear it from the horse's mouth. My gut feeling is that he did sign. I think his contract will be a little bit different, but until you hear it straight from them, do not take it 100%. That's all I'm saying. Just like the Mariah May stuff last Monday. I said, point blank, I do not think that she's still with AEW anymore. But until she shows up in NXT, we will not know that she resigned until the day she shows up. Then people will come out. My sources told me that this. Your sources didn't tell you nothing. So it was great to see R-Truth yesterday. It was great to see what he did with Cena. It made sense. It made Cena lose to Cody with no title involved under special circumstances. We've been calling them clusterfucks. You remember that thumbnail about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? I said number of clusterfucks remaining with John Cena, 6. Yesterday was a clusterfuck finish. His match on Saturday night's main event, clusterfuck finish. Low blow, blah, 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 blah. You know, Cena didn't get straight up clean pinned yesterday because he got knocked out with a belt. So hopefully this sets up Cody Rhodes versus John Cena at SummerSlam. And I personally hope that John Cena loses that championship at SummerSlam, and then it starts a chain of events. And then for the last 3 to 4 months that John Cena is on television, you know, we see him go out back as a babyface. He doesn't have to start kissing babies on camera again. He could still be what he's doing, but maybe he does beat the shit out of Logan Paul. Maybe he does do this. Maybe he does do that. But I do not believe Cena will retire with the title. I don't believe he will lose the title in December. I think it is happening sooner than that. I think many people are realizing that, you know, him with this championship, John Cena would get as many people attending, whether he had the title or not. For those that are going to ask me, why do I think he's having the title this long? Because we don't want to look back in the world of wrestling history and say, oh, they only put the belt on him for 2 weeks so he could break the record. Now, you do that to Nikki Bella. You don't do that to Ric Flair, with all due respect. So they want to keep it on him for enough time so it doesn't seem like, oh, we just put the belt on him. He really hasn't done nothing. He didn't win a match in 6 years, and we just wanted to break the record. Now, very important, something I do want to get into. Very important. Why did Triple H, if he signed, and this is a very important question, very important question. This might be the most important question about the Ron Killings R-Truth situation. Triple H in the media scrum yesterday refused to say if R-Truth signed a contract. He refused to say if he was released or not. All he said was, it's part of the show. Did you see the show? It's part of the show. Pinocchio. Or, as Alberto El Patron is saying right now, Miss Big Nose. What did Patron used to call him, Del Rio? Big Nose, Fat Nose, Big Nose. So Patron got scrubbed. We've been saying that for weeks. That motherfucker was going to get scrubbed. You know, his behavior is not improved at all. So, Patron. Anyway, why did Triple H, if R-Truth signed, why did Triple H just not say, listen, we heard you. We heard you. You know, WWE, you know, made a decision to not renew Ron Killings' contract, but we heard you. And you make the fans feel almost like the Daniel Bryan movement, almost like the We Want Cody movement. You see the power of the fans, the voice, the love. You guys are part of what we do. We listened. How many years Vince McMahon would say, we listened? No, that's Triple H. We listened. What Triple H would say with Vince in the ring and Shane and Stephanie and Linda and everybody else. We listened. No. You know why Triple H did not say that this time around? Because that could be dangerous. Having fans have that kind of power is fucking dangerous. And listen, if R-Truth signed, I'm happy that he's back. Very happy. But the reason why I think Triple H did not say that yesterday, if R-Truth re-signed is because that power will go into a lot of fucking people's heads. And every single time a fan favorite, a beloved wrestler, we were talking about Bailey and a few others last week. I'm not saying any of them will be released, but you are going to see very well-liked people released. And you can't start having this that, we're going to chant and we're going to protest and we're going to this and we're going to do that. We'll get them back. I'm sure Carlito wouldn't mind you all doing that shit right now. But, you don't want the fans. You think WWE wants the fans live on TV going, we want truth. We want truth. If they were re-signing him, they could have simply had John Cena cut a promo last week on TV and said, here's the truth. I got him fired. And then you feel like the fans stuck it to Cena, but they didn't do that. Why didn't they do that? If I could think of that, and a lot of you could think of that, why wouldn't WWE think of that? If you really want to give Cena a little bit more heat, he could have simply told the fans, you want the truth? Remember Friday Night SmackDown? You want the truth? It was me that made the decision. It was me, my power. I'm the champion. I make the decisions. But they didn't do that because they don't want the fans to get drunk with power in their mind, because it's going to be a rude fucking awakening. The next time somebody very popular gets released, you start chanting over and over and over and over and over again, and you think, we got our truth back. We could do it again. So that's why Triple H was so vague yesterday, if they re-signed R-Truth. If they didn't re-sign R-Truth, then what he said yesterday makes more sense. Yesterday was part of the show. Just leave it at that. That could have been his final appearance. Here, you want a good one? I'll give you a good one I just thought of. You know why? Because I uploaded the history show yesterday. This past week was the 1-year anniversary of Ricochet leaving WWE. 1 year ago last week, Ricochet got his ass kicked from Braun Breaker backstage at Raw, and he was carted off in an ambulance with Samantha Irvin, and we never saw Ricochet again. Go and do a Google search. Do a time search of this week. And you know what you'll find? A lot of your favorite wrestling news sources saying, that may not have been Ricochet's last appearance. He still has time on his contract. We think he may still appear on TV. Nobody knew. It ended up being his last appearance. But journalists thought that even though Ricochet was leaving, that he still might make more TV appearances. So R-Truth's contract was expiring this month, but you don't know exactly when in the month of June. So his contract could still be expiring. And yesterday was just part of the original deal. I'm throwing it out there because no one else has, because that is still a possibility. Probably not, but it's still a possibility. So just figured I'd share that with you. Couple other things, just very quickly. We're not going to do reviews of Money in the Bank and Worlds Collide, but I will say this. I watched both shows. I did print up results because I didn't want to make any mistakes on anybody's names. I enjoyed the shit out of Worlds Collide yesterday. Funny thing was, I did not realize that it was just free on YouTube. It was free. It's got 2 million views, 3 million views already, and there's a lot of ad revenue coming in. But that was free. It wasn't Peacock. It wasn't Netflix. It was YouTube, which is very interesting. But as far as Corey Graves goes, Corey Graves last night knocked it out of the fucking park with his commentary. Technically, he was solo yesterday. Conan was there as a Hall of Famer, legendary wrestler, promoter, booker, involved heavily with AAA, and he was there as a guest. I don't know what people wanted, him. Oh, well, he's got kidney issues still, and he's older, and he's this, he's that. No, he's just not a regular English play-by-play person. And he never worked with Corey Graves before. I mean, people were really like getting on Conan's ass. And listen, I obviously have a special love for Conan, but what did they want him to do? Get out of his chair and go, "Oh, Dios mío!" Conan did a great job. You could tell that he's still in podcast mode because I just want to say this. Let me tell you something. Just one more thing I want to add. And it sounded like a podcast. I loved it. I loved the history, bringing us back to the early 90s with the original When Worlds Collide. People comparing that one to this one is stupid because at that time, Lucha Libre was not, it was a phenomenon that most people did not pay attention to. Now we have 33 years of exposure on television, so you can't compare the first one to the second one. But it obviously was legendary. It was a phenomenal pay-per-view when it first came out. But I love the history telling. I love the vignettes. Conan made me laugh a few times. My favorite line of the night, like I said, I only printed up results, but I printed up one other thing. During Vinqueño's match against Chad Gable, there was a point where Corey Graves, and this is exact, Corey Graves asked Conan, at what point during the match will Vinqueño get frustrated? And Conan just simply says, he won't. The way he said it, I was like, that was epic, man. It's if you tune into yesterday's history show, after Dave Meltzer got owned by Triple H in the conference call, and there was that awkward pause, and you hear Dave Meltzer go, "Well, thank you." It was just like, I couldn't stop laughing. Because Corey was just, Corey had a chip on his shoulder yesterday, or he may have had a couple of nachos on his shoulder that he wanted, that because of the way WWE has used him. That motherfucker went Joey Styles mode yesterday, because Joey Styles used to fucking kill it. Joey Styles, even on pay-per-view, up until 1997, we knew that Joey Styles would do the commentary from, White Plains. I don't remember the producer's house. I went there. I thought I was in a shrine. I'll never forget that moment. When I did work for XPW and they used the same producer that produced ECW TV, and I went to fucking Westchester, I remember the front of his house. We had to do figure eights to go through his driveway. And we would go into a basement and I see all his fucking equipment. And this is where they produced ECW. And I was just in awe. I can't remember his name right now. I got to show him some love. But, Joey Styles in Paul Heyman's basement, so he got to do it at his leisure. He could have 2 takes, 3 takes, 4 takes if he wants. It's all recorded later. Corey Graves yesterday fucking killed it. He killed it. And it was a fun show. It was really fun. The tickets, say what you want, but the ticket prices were very reasonable. I had a few of you tell me yesterday that you paid anywhere from $35 to $80 for your tickets. I think the original starting price was $60, and then they dropped the price a little bit because they still had some tickets available. That is very fucking reasonable for that card yesterday. So for less than $100, and plus we know what's going on in Los Angeles right now. There's a little bit of unrest because of ice. It's for a different day. But that was a fun match yesterday. I tell you, my favorite wrestler, other than Lola Vice's ass, my favorite wrestler was Mr. Iguana. I mean, I admit, never really saw much of anything with Mr. Iguana. But when he hit the ring and had that iguana puppet, and the fucking thing is laying on the floor, and he literally, on one take, kicks it up in the air, and it lands on his shoulder. I don't care how many times fucking Kurt Hennig would do one of these with his gum. just like spit it. Like, see, this is a paper. So paper will just fly across the room. If I put something a little bit more significant, I probably could do it. See? I don't care how many times Kurt Hennig threw the towel over his back and Bobby Heenan would grab it. That motherfucker kicked that iguana puppet up in the air and it landed on his shoulder. Perfect. Here's my honest opinion about Mr. Iguana yesterday. Yes, we see goofy shit in AEW. Yes, we see goofy stuff in wrestling. But I think back to George the Animal Steel with mine. I think of Paul Ellering with Rocco. I think of Al Snow with Head. I think of, others. There's nothing wrong sometimes with a little bit of innocent, goofy humor. And you know what the difference was? Fucking Mr. Iguana was killing it in a ring yesterday. He wasn't moving around like a goof just for comedy purposes. When that guy did moves, he fucking nailed it. And do I want to see that guy on my team? Honestly, to me, it almost like, like maybe somebody ordered a Goldust costume on Wish and unfortunately got like something else in the mail and it came with green paint instead. You know what I mean? Like, if you really looked at it closely, I'm sure there's many things you could come up with to criticize the guy, but, simple humor like that once in a while, there's nothing wrong with it, man. And I enjoyed it. Octagon Jr., Aerostar Mr. Iguana defeated the LWOs, Dragon Lee and Cruz del Toro and Lince Dorado. Fun match, 14 minutes. Stephanie Vicaire, she wrestled 3 times in less than 24 hours. I know some people are going to say, oh, DT, back in the day, wrestlers did that all the time. They wrestle a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I get it. But this isn't back in the day. And these were very high-profile matches. House shows, you could go gaga. There's no cameras. There's camera phones now, but you could go gaga. You could take it easy, kick back, relax, have a few beers, chill out. It's all good. But she was on SmackDown, Worlds Collide, and Money in the Bank. Give it that. Very impressive. She and Lola Vice defeated Chic Tormenta and Dalys. When we did predictions, we talked about those 2 women, veterans. Again, I loved the history telling yesterday. The only problem with Conan, like I said, is Conan was in podcast mode. So Conan, especially with the high flying and the rapido stuff, I remember there was one point where Legado del Fantasma was taking on El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown. And he wanted to tell a story about, I think, Angel Garza and his father or something, and something involving somebody deceased. And he started and next thing you know, Corey's calling, very important moves in the match. And he never got to tell the story because this isn't a card where you're doing a headlock for 30 seconds. And Conan could tell the story while there's a headlock. It's just rapido. So that was the only thing yesterday, but I'm not going to hold it against them. People that were really, really critiquing it, those are the people I kind of like to stay away from because, come on, man. It's like we got this for free. We got it for free. Like I said, like I always say, it's like going to the supermarket and you show up. Well, look at this. There's a whole bunch of free food. Look, free heroes, free hot dogs. The bun was a little bit crusty. The bun was a little bit dry, maybe because it was out in the heat. Fuck you. Go buy a bag of buns if you want. I appreciate the hors d'oeuvres, but, the cheese seemed, I don't know if it was the toothpick. Fuck you. Seriously. So those were fun matches. Legado did get the win. Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo are going to be wrestling for AAA again. So it made sense for them to have a win and have a little bit. Oh, there was one other thing I did not like about Worlds Collide yesterday. There was only one thing I didn't like, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. Ethan Page retained the championship over Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, and Ray Phoenix. If you heard our predictions, Javon Evans was going to hit a finisher and then get thrown out of the ring, and Ethan Page was going to steal the victory. What I didn't expect was for Ray Phoenix to get pinned. That was interesting because Conan was selling us on Ray Phoenix more than even Penta. And like Ray Phoenix is the heir apparent of Rey Mysterio. And Ray Phoenix gets pinned a minute later, which was interesting. That's not what I complain about. El Hijo del Vikingo over Chad Gable to retain the Mega Championship. Listen, unfortunately, a lot of people out there never pay attention to anything that is not cut and paste. They don't pay attention to certain things that go on in Mexico. They don't pay attention to a lot of things. They just pay attention for stories that will give them the most hits and views. There's been a lot of shit going on with Patron Del Rio, and it ain't just Paige, okay? It ain't just that woman that he held hostage and, got off, technically because she refused to, testify, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, but it's more than that. He has backstage fights. He has incidents with fans. Patron, it's amazing that guy has not done prison time, significant prison time. That is not, listen, amazing wrestler. But I said this at least a half a dozen times over the last month, and I know anybody that follows my shows on a weekly basis knows I have said this. I said Conan has brought up on his podcast more than once that in Mexico, the fans turn more of a blind eye to the outside behavior, as long as it's not criminal. So even though Patron is a little bit of an issue, the fans in Mexico will turn their head a little bit. Not WWE, TKO, the publicly traded company. When I saw people saying that WWE signed him first, I'm like, where did this come from? Just common sense would tell you, I remember what he used to call him, Mr. Big Nose. Well, guess what? Patron is still scrubbed. Yeah, he's scrubbed. He is a problem. It's going to be interesting to hear what Conan has to say about it, because I think Conan has to take the high road about it because he ain't going to go against WWE. Is he banned? I wouldn't say that. But if you saw that video package for Vikingo yesterday, scrubby. But that match with Chad Gable was tremendous. Fucking incredible match, man. Vikingo did a lot more than I thought he would. Obviously, he will be reeled in a little bit to prevent injury and, prolong his career. But just look at Chad Gable, too. Chad Gable was doing fucking amazing moves yesterday. That guy will be a world champion. Don't know which one, but he will be a world champion. You could see it. You could feel it. When we did predictions for Money in the Bank, I said for me, it comes down to either Seth Rollins or El Grande Americano. And just because of my love for Chad Gable, I said, you know what? I'm going to go against the grain, and maybe they'll just do something we least expect and have El Grande Americano run around with the briefcase. So what did I not like about Worlds Collide yesterday? I hated the scoreboard. I hated that. I don't know if that was Conan's idea, and if it was, he should have known before the event started that WWE was going to win 4-1 or 3-2 or whatever it is. It wasn't going to be, put it this way, we weren't going to go off the air like AAA wins. Wasn't going to happen. I hated the scoreboard. It's 2-1. There was one point where WWE was up, I think 3-1, and Conan says, "What is it right now?" And Corey kind of like went in a different direction because I was like, "Yeah, there's no way to catch up now." It was just, I didn't like it. I did not like it at all. But and it was good too. They ended up doing the Dominic Mysterio match. You remember I said, I'm hoping that Dominic Mysterio will be at Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank, and we got both. He had the confrontation with Octagon Jr., and they ended up having the match at Money in the Bank. The match was a little bit shorter than I expected it to be. It kind of gave me the same vibe of Randy Orton and Joe Hendry. I don't know if anybody else felt that way. See, like, Joe Hendry didn't lose anything by losing to Randy Orton so quickly. But it felt like when that match was over, you felt like, okay, Joe Hendry is over and he's got something. And in the future, he will be a huge star. But right now, this is WWE, and WWE is just that much higher than TNA. And that's what it felt like. There was no, obviously, chance Dominic losing that belt. But that match was less than 5 minutes. And yes, Octagon Jr. working the day before, well, actually earlier in the afternoon, I should say, so you kind of understand that, but I thought the match would be a little bit longer, but it was still, a fun match to see. And Dominic getting the heel heat again. Dominic was cheered a lot less than I thought he would. Naomi won the briefcase. When we did predictions, for me, it came down to Naomi or Rhea Ripley. And I thought, Rhea Ripley was the more obvious choice because you have Rhea Ripley could show up on both brands just for name value and status. Naomi now, gets that briefcase. Look, she's earned it. She's earned it. And I don't think any woman has failed to cash it in yet. I think every time a woman cashed it in, they've won. So, if that streak continues, Naomi is a future women's world champion. The only question is which brand will it be? My problem with Seth Rollins winning the briefcase, I only had one problem yesterday. And my problem was CM Punk. In storyline, where was he? Where was he? Did his dog do poopy and he was busy cleaning it up in the parking lot? CM Punk, as far as I know, was in California. In storyline, where's Sami Zayn? Where's CM Punk? Where's everybody that wants to get revenge on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins? They all come out and everybody else is nowhere to be found. Was Sami at the protests? Was CM Punk busy in the parking lot? That was my only problem with it. You could have had them come out and chase away Braun Breaker, chase away Bronson Reed, brawl into the crowd, and that leaves Seth Rollins by himself. But they didn't do that. And, the way, and listen, forget Roman Reigns, man. Forget Roman Reigns. It's not his fault. It obviously is not his fault. But Roman Reigns, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. Like a week before WrestleMania, I'm not a part-time guy. I'm not a part-time guy. I'm not a, yes, you are. He's earned it, but, they did it in storyline. Roman Reigns is a part-time player. And Cody Rhodes ended up being one too. But like I said, once Cody came back, all is forgotten. All is forgiven, all is forgotten. Roman Reigns, nowhere to be found, So that's my problem with this. You have Seth Rollins do damage to Reigns. You have Bronson Reed do damage to Sami Zayn. You have all these people doing damage to these guys. And then Money in the Bank, they're running roughshod, interfering in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and nobody hits the ring. That sucked yesterday. That was my only problem. The Jacob Fatu stuff, that was good. That was good. A little bit surprising. Where was JC Mateo? I know he got speared through the barricade. JC Mateo was doing his best impersonation of AOP. He went to sleep for 9 minutes. He got speared once through a barricade, and that was it. He got nappy. So, Jacob Fatu, yes, babyface, more of a single, solo, lone wolf. You want to go that route. But by default, the fans are into him and WWE sees it. Interesting that they went this quickly, but you almost feel like they had to, because who is Solo Sikoa going to feud with next? What about Tama Tonga? Tonga Loa, go talk to Carlito. Tonga, what do you do with these guys? I mean, the Wyatt Six, forget it. Forget it. Seriously. Stick a fork. Bo Dallas Bo Dallas is the brother that cried wolf too many times, and it ain't his fault. It was creative. You had all these QR codes and bunnies and puzzles and the telephone numbers and all this stuff last year. In 4 fucking months, we're encoding this and we're interpreting that. And, I have nothing but love for wrestling days, DAZE. That motherfucker was cracking everything. And I'm like, man, this better be a fucking great story. This guy's working his ass off. And it amounted into the bully police. Instead of the land of the misfit toys who were lied to by management, used and abused and left for dead, it's now, no, let's put a fictitious bullet in Chad Gable's head. Let's brawl with the Miz. Let's take on the Final Testament, the bullies of the WWE. And then they disappear. And now all of a sudden they're tag team wrestling. And Bo Dallas is cutting these promos. And I'm like, for the tag team division? If I was having sex right now, it's the equivalent of seeing fucking Roseanne Barr show up in my room at the same time. Talk about making you go soft. You take the Wyatts, and now he's cutting promos, and the tag team division is going to pay for fucking the Righteous with Karrion Kross can't come fast enough. Becky Lynch winning the Intercontinental Championship yesterday. 15 minutes, too. That was a great match with Lyra. It was very reminiscent of Shane Douglas and Too Cold Scorpio in ECW. They did that where, the only difference was Shane Douglas was always about the ECW World Championship. Yeah, he didn't want Too Cold Scorpio's belt. I don't want the TV title. I'm world champion, And Scorpio got pissed, and they end up having a feud, and Shane Douglas wins the belt. And Shane Douglas insists that Too Cold Scorpio put it around his waist. And he got too cocky and everything, and Scorpio just nailed his fucking head with the belt. Whacked him right on his ass. So they did the same thing yesterday with Lyra. Raising my hand is not enough. Put the belt around my waist. But it was just funny because Lyra's like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. It was almost like you do that at a bachelorette party and a stripper comes out of the cake and he's wearing nothing and all your girlfriends are like, go for it, Lyra. No, I can't do that. I cannot. No, I can't do that. She was having she almost had an aneurysm yesterday about putting the belt around her waist. I can't walk you around the ring. Oh my God. I almost thought they were filming a Snickers commercial. I wanted Becky to say, here, have a Snickers. It'll make you feel better. And honestly, with the way WWE is whoring themselves out for advertisers, I wouldn't be surprised if Becky whipped out a Snickers. This match is brought to you by Snickers. Even the fucking briefcase now says Cash App on it. I got news for you, WWE. I am going to double down on Venmo with all this shit. If you notice, look at my thumbnail. Did you notice I photoshopped all the Fireball graphics out of it? I actually was going to put graphics of all different podcasters in the background, but I was like, nah, you know what? Let's keep the background a little cleaner. I took all the Fireball. I think from now on, when I make thumbnails, I'm going to take all the advertisers out. I'm going to take them all out. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso beating Logan Paul and John Cena. It was a fun match. Didn't know it was, no DQ because there was a lot of outside shit going on. Listen, everybody worked their ass off. When we did predictions, we felt Cody needed to pin Cena. You needed to have that moment where Cena loses, but no title involved. Because now that could set the stage of Cody Rhodes versus John Cena 2 for the World Championship, the undisputed WWE Championship. And I'm hoping it's SummerSlam. I hope it's not Saudi Arabia. I hope that it's not Saudi Arabia. I know they changed this year the King and Queen of the Ring deal, which is fine, but I want to see Cody versus John Cena. Sean KB sent the 2-spot. Why is Rene Dupree attacking me? He sucks. I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't talked about Rene Dupree in like 5 or 10 years. I mean, Los Conquistadors, whatever the fucking French name they had. Like, my only problem ever about Rene Dupree was that they put belts on El Frenchmans to get them over. You put belts on people who are over, who have earned it. And it felt at that time they put it on La Resistance to get them over. I remember Kevin and I doing our podcast at the time, and they put the belts on La Resistance. And like, why did they do that? It felt the opposite. Like, it didn't feel like, they've worked really hard. They earned it. They deserved it. No, it felt like, I guess they're putting the belts on them to try to get them over. I don't know. I don't know why he would be bashing me, but hey, it's all good. Nothing personal against the guy. I just, is he? Was this called Cafe de Rene? Is that what his podcast is called? Cafe de Rene? I think that's what it is. All right. Oh yeah. Let's get into a couple little questions here. Well, like I was saying, the tag team match, I enjoyed it very much. R-Truth coming out, it was funny. He was wearing all black, hoodie, face completely covered. And when he was punching Cena, if we're being really honest here, when he was punching Cena, like I saw the back, and I'm like, okay, it's a black guy. Okay, that cuts it down to, I don't know. I didn't think that quickly. And honestly, it did not even cross my mind that it would be R-Truth. Like, I just, black person, who, and then before you knew it, he just pulled the mask off. So before you could even let it sink in, it was R-Truth. But as I said earlier, until you hear it out of the mouths of people, just keep that possibility in the back of your head. Because anybody telling you right now, my source is this, my source is that, those are the people you got to stay away from the most. Stay clear away from them. But, I'll tell you this. The Money in the Bank matches went a lot longer than they usually do. Last year, each match went about 15 minutes. Last night, the women's went 25 minutes. And the men went 33 minutes. Yes, there was a lot of extracurricular activities, but, the Dominic match was a throwaway, didn't go even 5 minutes. Becky and Lyra was very good. Might have felt more like a Raw match than anything, but I thought Money in the Bank was very good. Hit him up and said, DT, have I heard the good news? Please, you better not be talking about Nikki Bella. I will fucking ban you. You tell me about Nikki Bella being on Raw tomorrow. The only thing good about that is I could eat tacos tomorrow afternoon, because at least I know there'll be a part of Raw that I could go take a shit for a few minutes. And obviously she's to set up Evolution. She's going to come back and tout, but I thought Michelle McCool was the pioneer. Like, that's what she's going to do tomorrow. She's going to cut a promo and tout this, tout that. I will have no problem with Nikki Bella being on Evolution as long as AJ Lee is on Evolution. I have nothing personal against Nikki Bella. She never turned me down on a date. I just feel like, all right, whatever, listen, Raw's 2 hours and 40 minutes. A pay-per-view is 2.5 hours. SmackDown is 3 hours. You know, sometimes you have to accept there's going to be a couple of moments that aren't going to be your cup of tea. So Nikki Bella is on tomorrow. That's fine. As long as they don't fucking put in the middle of the ring, you know, if they have like the Taco Bell or, you know, the Slim Jim bit thing in the ring and Rita, Saudi Arabia in the ring. As long as they don't have in one of the corners of the ring, the Bellas podcast. Nominated for a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award. That's the funniest. That's the funniest. The Bellas are nominated for Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award for Podcast of the Year. I swear to God, if my fucking kid, no, that has a beautiful Daphne painting in there. I've never opened it. If my fucking kid that's like 7 years old is watching the Bellas podcast and they're talking about wine and marriage and penises and birth control and this and that, my kid would identify themselves, not he and him, not she and her, but grounded and grounded more. I know some of you thought I was going to say something else. Just ground them. I'd let them watch the best of QT Marshall. Or if Rene Dupree really did say something nasty about me, or the best of La Resistance. But you know what? If I grounded my kid and said, you have to watch the best of La Resistance before I leave the room, Dad, the DVD's over. Dad, can I go play now? Rene Dupree was good, man. Let's be honest. I'm not kissing his ass. I'm not afraid. I know the phone number for the local detectives. I got bodyguards. I got my fucking salami. And if you really piss me off, you see this? This is not like for your testicles. This is like the shave, like your shirts when you got limp balls. I'll shave your limp balls where you don't have limp balls. Don't ask me why this is on my desk. And it probably works too. Turn off already. I can't turn it off. I swear to God, look. I can't turn it off. Now it's going louder. How do you turn this off? Oh my God, I'm not kidding. I swear on my mother and father, I swear on Kev's grave, that was not staged. I honestly didn't know how to turn it off. Now, you know what's going to happen tomorrow morning? My wife is going to say, honey, I'm getting ready for work. Where's that lint? All right. Yes, this was very good yesterday, too. Mighty says, favorite quote from Conan yesterday. Why did they stop? Why did they stop? He did repeat a lot of things yesterday. But my favorite was, I just want to say one thing. Corey, let me tell you something. I just want to say one thing. He was in podcast mode, man. He was in podcast mode. Basic, it says, I'm hilarious tonight. This is a release. This is just an escape. Having some fun. I see there's a lot of you live right now, but only 1/4 of you have hit the like. So, you know, I would appreciate if you up that a little bit. You know, just shows that you like what's going on. Somebody sent this earlier about R-Truth. Dayhawk, thank you for the 10 spot. He wouldn't be surprised if R-Truth was angry at Triple H for calling it a work when clearly it wasn't. I find it disrespectful, in my opinion, especially with being loyal to the company for so long. Listen, again, I'm not trying to criticize anybody out there. You know, it'll look so much clearer if you don't listen to the people out there that are saying my sources, because their sources didn't even know that R-Truth was going to be let go until R-Truth told everyone. Triple H did not say yesterday that R-Truth was re-signed. Triple H did not say yesterday that R-Truth was released. R-Truth did not say yesterday that he was re-signed. All he said on Twitter was, it's not a work. And he thanked everyone for all of the love. Again, most likely he is back in the company. I even saw some people today, my sources say that Nick Khan stepped in. Well, who else was going to? Ari Emanuel was? I don't know anything about R-Truth. Robert Shapiro. No, that's the OJ lawyer. Mike Shapiro. So, Wrestling Observer last week said Triple H is the one that fired him. And since Dwayne hasn't been around because he's doing the MMA movie, that leaves just Nick. I get it. My sources says that Nick was involved in bringing him back. Nick is on the board of fucking directors. Everybody on the board of directors is involved with it. But listen, you don't know 100% one way or the other. Was this a storyline? Again, I give Fightful the credit and Sean Sapp the credit, not because I'm looking for a hand job, but because out of all of the noise yesterday, and I mean this, out of all the noise, because I searched, I wanted to see what people were reporting. And out of all the noise, I see this one post that says they've talked to numerous wrestlers in WWE, and none of them were told that this was a work. None of them thought that R-Truth was working anybody else. Every single person who showed their love in the wrestling world to R-Truth the last 7 days, not one of them believed that this was storyline at all. And when you think about it, I just don't believe that all of these people that absolutely love R-Truth is going to turn around and just, wink, wink. Yeah, I was released. Wink, wink. I don't buy that. I don't believe that. That's why I brought up Drake Maverick last week. This is not the Vince McMahon company anymore. This is like Luke Gallows. God bless him. Guy could kick my ass. God bless him. But, I almost thought that he was doing this podcast for one of his fucking spoof promotion shows. Remember that Southpaw or whatever? Because he says, this is not WWE anymore. This is TKO. No fucking shit. That's what it's been for 17 months. They're only figuring it out now that this is TKO and everything is different and this is how it's being handled. Why are people so shocked that this came out of nowhere? If R-Truth could be let go, anybody could be let go. I have something. Before I do that, Bob the Build, the Kev Castle questions, I'll get into in a moment. Let me just stay on the wrestling stuff for a minute. Give me 1 second. Okay. The Miz. A couple of days ago, a bunch of wrestling news sites were saying that The Miz and Gunther removed all the WWE references from their X account, and Miz unfollowed WWE. I didn't even acknowledge the Gunther stuff, if you remember, and I said the Miz stuff, no one heard Miz was released, and I said until you hear it from Miz, don't buy it. Don't buy it. You could go listen to last week's show. That's exactly what I said. Would the Miz have been upset at R-Truth being let go? Sure. Believe it or not, this week Cummings, you'll get a kick out of this. This coming week's history show is the anniversary of R-Truth's game show. Does anybody remember R-Truth's game show? The clip that I'm going to be sharing next week has Miz and R-Truth in it. I got something else too. Wrestling with the Classic. Was that the show? I think that was the show. If I made a mistake, I'm sorry. I will correct it tomorrow. Oh, I got a doozy for you now. I know we're going off track for a minute. This is a doozy. I should have opened up with this. Sabu passed away recently at 60 years old. I found something maybe all of you will be like, nah, DT, that was a wet fart. Or maybe this is something that every fucking wrestling news site will talk about tomorrow. Sabu had his final match in GCW. Took on Joey Janela, Bob Wire, all the dumb shit about Creighton, Kraken, whatever it is. We already addressed that shit. People out there, you give them an O'Doul's and they get drunk over it. If you don't know what O'Doul's is, good for you. What if I told you that Sabu a year ago talked about GCW wanting to have his last match, and it would be Bob Wire. And he talked about having the match and then dying at 60. What if I told you that maybe Sabu kind of foreshadowed his death? I'll let you hear the clip. I put it on the history show, but it's two different clips, but I bunched them together to make it, flow better. He talks about, now keep in mind, this is 1 year ago. Listen to what Sabu said 1 year ago. And the reason why I'm mentioning it now is because this interview took place 1 year ago yesterday or last week. Check this out. It's kind of funny what you find when nobody talks about it.
I don't want to be that old and have my last match. I want to do it by, I relatively not too old, I'm 60 years old. And that sounds like a lot, but I don't feel it. But I'm hurting from other stuff, from wrestling for 30 years.
Yeah.
I need I need a knee replacement, a shoulder replacement, and something with my back. But it's getting better to where I can live with it. And I've been working out all the time. And in about another year or 6 months or a year, I'll be ready. I have enough weight put on. I already gained about 15 pounds. I've been working out for about 4 months.
That's awesome.
And I didn't work out for 3 years.
Yeah. So once you get to that place, you're ready to have that one last match.
Yes. My goal to work out is the last match. And I know that last match is tomorrow. It's long. GCW wants me to do my last match with them in January. I said, I don't know if I'll be ready. And I don't want my last match in January. I want it in July.
In the summertime or something.
Yeah. And I want it in Las Vegas.
Would you want to ever go back to AEW? Is there any time?
Yeah.
I'm
going to have a final match eventually. I'm not in shape for it yet. I'm hurting too much, but I'm hoping my pain eases up. I'm sure it will. I'd like to maybe do my final match with them because they have a big platform and a big paycheck.
What? Just out of curiosity, before I throw it to Tim, then, do you have like an idea of what you'd want your final match to be?
Probably a barbed wire match, or I'd really like a barbed wire explosion match done the right way.
The right way, yeah. I mean, we've seen Rob Van Dam in AEW quite a bit. They bring him in frequently. Would you like to do something with him again, maybe, or? No,
not that I don't want to. Yeah, I only have one match left in me. I don't think I have any more than that.
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna. I set a standard that if I can't live up to my own standard, I don't want to do it.
100%.
I used to make fun of guys or chuckle when they say, that guy's too old. Well, I don't want to be one of those guys where they're saying, he's too old. I don't care my age. If I can move, which I plan on doing, I expected my last match to be one of my best, if not my best.
That's fair.
The way to go out final would probably be an explosion match, and I probably die or something.
No, I mean, you can work around it, and that way it's like we don't want you to die. Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
but that would be the way to go. That's every warrior wants to die in battle.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't really want to die in battle. They want to win in battle.
Crazy, right? Just something that I found from a year ago. It's kind of eerie to hear him say that he's 60 and go out as a warrior and have his last match, barbed wire, and then die at 60. Crazy, right? You heard anybody mention that? Crazy. All right. Let's get back to Miz. We talked about Miz. Don't believe it until you hear from Miz. Look what Miz posted today.
social media real. And my thing is, everyone get off of
Be nice if I play some audio with it, right?
social media real. And my thing is, everyone get off of social media and don't listen to any of it. Because it's all false. Everything I've seen about me is false. And I didn't want to address this. I thought it would just go away. I didn't want to draw attention to it, because if I said something, then it might draw more attention, and I just didn't want that, but it just keeps going. So I will say it like it is. As far as X, Instagram, and TikTok and my profiles, I've never changed any of them recently. Like the last time I changed my Twitter profile was probably 5 years ago. It still says Twitter on it. So it doesn't say X. So I haven't changed that in like 5 years. I haven't unfollowed WWE at all. WWE and I are in very good standings. Like we just dropped Miz Golf, which is part of WWE's YouTube. So, and then as far as WWE's concerned, tonight is the most important pay-per-view of the year, in my opinion, because it's Money in the Bank.
There's your Miz. You heard it straight from Miz's mouth. Got one more for you. One more. Vince McMahon. We've heard everyone from coach to everyone else. My sources tell me Vince is going to launch a wrestling company. Vince is looking to do this. Vince. Vince will buy AEW. Vince wants to rebuy TKO. If TKO was a 45-year-old woman with a nice set of knockers, it didn't have any sexually transmitted diseases and sanitizes her hands, maybe if your initials were TKO, Vince would want you. But Shane McMahon was walking out and about and bumped into TMZ this weekend, and Shane McMahon said this.
Ich wollte dich fragen. Ich weiß, es gab Spekulationen, dass du und dein Vater eine eigene Wrestling-Firma gründen könntet. Ist das wahr?
Man weiß nie, was da draußen passiert. Natürlich kann in der WWE alles passieren. Aber diese Gerüchte sind falsch.
Okay, ich weiß. Ich meine, wenn nicht, bestünde die Chance, dass du der AEW beitreten würdest? Vielleicht.
Ich traf mich mit AEW und wünsche ihnen weiterhin Erfolg. Aber es ist nicht die WWE. Es ist nicht die Firma, die ich aufgebaut habe. Aber man weiß nie, was in diesem Geschäft passiert. Ich weiß, es gab noch ein anderes Gerücht. So viele, aber es gab noch eins darüber, dass sich dein Vater wieder in die WWE einkauft. Was ist mit all dem los? Nun,
Du besitzt immer noch einen großen Anteil an TKO. Man weiß also nie, was dort passieren wird. Ich versuche also nicht, vage zu sein. Ich sage nur, dass natürlich alles passieren kann.
Punkt. Und wie geht es deinem Vater in letzter Zeit? Wie geht es ihm?
Es geht ihm wirklich gut. Er genießt es, weißt du. Er genießt das Leben. Er gönnt sich ein bisschen Ruhe. Aber wenn du mal...
Oh, man, I can't hear it. I didn't hear the Sabu thing. My speaker is off. So when the Sabu thing was playing, you see me going. I can't hear nothing. All right, well, anyway, that was an epic fail. Shane McMahon said that his father's doing great. He's not starting a wrestling company. He's not getting back into the wrestling business. And he met Tony Khan, wished him well, but, AEW is not the company that, he started with and built it up and blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is the Vince McMahon stuff is fake news. You know why I played that in French? So Rene Dupree could understand. So that's why. That was just for Rene Dupree's ears only. I didn't know it was in German. At least I won't get any copyright infringement. I'm sorry. I had no idea it was in a different language. I could do subtitles, but we don't have to worry about that. Bottom line is that Miz did not delete WWE, and Vince is not starting a wrestling company, and Carlito isn't coming back to WWE anytime soon. It was in Japanese. It's been in 5 different languages so far. Earlier, Bob the Builder asked me a legitimate question. I mentioned a tribute show is planned. What could the fans expect from it? How could they best participate or support Kev's legacy? And you also said, how would I describe Kev's legacy in the podcast community? And what do I hope listeners remember most about him? Well, I'll say two things. There's no tribute show scheduled anytime soon. Family is still grieving pretty heavy from it. Our podcasting extended family is grieving. Anybody that tuned into Thursday's Patreon show, whether you are on Patreon or a channel member on YouTube, you heard that intense discussion about Kev and, some people pretty upset at some people in wrestling not tributing Kev. It's still a very, very raw, there's a lot of grieving still going on. I don't know if a tribute show will ever take place. I don't know. I mean, I will tell you this much. Everybody is already paying tribute to Kev by mentioning him and spreading the word and showing love and posting memories and highlights and things they loved and, enjoying old shows. That's how you keep his spirit alive. You ask me, how would I describe his legacy in the podcast community? He's an OG. He's an OG. I mean, I've been doing this since 97 and I'm the longest, ever, but he started in 02, 03 on a part-time basis, but still that's 23 years. Kevin and I were, you see the success that Cornette has right now. I mean, we were way above even Jim Cornette early on, but Jim was just starting at the time with his. But, we were on top against anybody. So Kev is definitely an OG. He inspired a lot of people. He also was very, very straight up and honest, and that is something that I try to keep going. I try to keep our authenticity alive. He grew on me a lot and I grew on him a lot. And, authenticity was the best way I could describe him. That's how his legacy will always live. Someone who loved wrestling, somebody who respected wrestling, somebody who respected his peers and was always looking out for others. Many people feel that Kev was looking out for others more than he was looking out for himself. And that may sound negative, but that's someone who is unselfish. So he will be remembered and I will keep his spirit alive. When I do the thumbnails, look, I didn't even know you were going to send that earlier, but you look at the thumbnails for every week whenever we do a show. This was the thumbnail for last week. I keep Kev somewhere, just a reminder, that, and I haven't even changed the website yet. But listen, down the line, I plan on doing an episode with Cross, and Kev will be discussed. There's a few other people in the wrestling world that I would love to have on, and you'd be surprised who I'm talking about. Names, you'd be like, holy shit. And they were very good friends online with Kev. Like I said, a lot of people mourn differently. A lot of people mourn privately. And what you got to understand, and I don't want to get into a big deal, but I'll say this. Sometimes some of the very closest people in wrestling that were close with Kev, didn't say anything publicly. And the reason why that happens sometimes is because, and this is true, I said this Thursday and I got a DM from someone that heard it. When you go public and start paying tributes to people that you were friendly with, then you have to do it almost for everybody. And then what happens is it gets to a point where if you stop, then, why didn't you mention this person? Why didn't you pay tribute to this person? I remember when Daphne passed, without naming names, so a lot of you remember, there was a few people on television that fans were tweeting like crazy. How come you didn't even just write Daph on tape? Or why didn't you even mention this? I mean, some people were very, very close with her. Why didn't you do that? Just everybody grieves differently. And sometimes, when you go public, it's a slippery slope. Trust me, a lot of people reached out and did it privately, because everybody mourns differently. So, You can't expect everybody to do like a tribute video and a tribute tweet and just as long as you don't forget the person and, you show that you cared, that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. And trust me, what I don't want, and I know Kev didn't want, and I know each and every one of you would not want, is these bullshit websites that will write, "We are deeply saddened to hear that Mike blah, blah, blah passed away at 59 years old. On behalf of WrestlingDickhead.com, we send our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Mike blah, 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 blah. He will be sorely missed." They don't know who the fuck that person is. I want people, whether it's public or private, an email, a DM, or somebody else, when I see an apology, I want to feel that it's authentic. And I will tell you, even people that Kev feuded with online sent me messages. Very respectful, very, very kind, very, very nice. Didn't always see eye to eye with Kev. Got into a couple of fights with him with Kev, but there's no denying how much that guy loved wrestling and loved what he did, and my condolences and nothing but respect. That happened. Put it this way, if I had $1 for every time that somebody did that, I could buy a couple of Starbucks. So, all right. Let's move on. And then we'll get into questions in the chat because we've already gone 80 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you, Basic. He says, "Man, you're hilarious tonight." How do you know if I identify as a man? I'm stupid. Now I'm starting to shoot blanks. Thank you for Basic for that. I really appreciate that. T. Smithy, 3000. He finds it hilarious. The same people who said WWE wasted one of Cena's dates on Truth are now mad that he was not re-signed. How soon will all these fans stop caring about Truth? Great show as always. Here's the thing, Smitty. John Cena has 35 appearances. Let's just say there's 35. If he goes out there and cuts the same fucking promo 3 weeks in a row, is that wasted? If you're in 3 different towns or 3 different countries or 3 different states, is that wasted? For some people, yes. For some people who really enjoy Cena, no. Him taking on Truth is not a wasted appearance. The funny thing is, the majority of people who said that complain that Cena's going to be on TV 35 times this year. Oh my God, is this going to get old fast? I mean, he's 40 times, whatever it is. So how is it wasted? Well, he only did 3 minutes work. Yeah, and so did Brock Lesnar in a lot of his matches, and so did Goldberg in a lot of his matches, and Randy Orton did the 3-minute warning with Joe Hendry. Like, why are they suddenly, like, what did they think? Cena was going to have 5-star matches every time he's in a ring? That Cena has to fight El Hijo del Vikingo, or Swerve Strickland, or Cody Rhodes, or the El Topo of the Mountaino? Like, what do you care who Cena fights? So what? He fought R-Truth. R-Truth has been doing the Cena thing for well over a decade. How's about, cool, R-Truth got a thing with Cena. Pretty cool to see on the way out. Here's some news for you. A lot of people don't know this because people don't cut and paste it, so most people don't report it. Cena had a very gigantic, huge input of who he works with this year. So when you see Cena out there with R-Truth, I will bet my fucking salami that was a big Cena call. So, this is Cena's final year even if you're not a Cena fan now, if you were a fan during Thugonomics, if you were a fan during the Prototype, if you were a fan 10 years ago and you just feel like it's old, listen, there was an older lady, an older woman that I dated in 1990. Memorial Day weekend was the anniversary that I drove fucking 150 miles to go hang out with her. I didn't even know her yet. With all due respect, if I go hang out with her now, she's almost 67 years old. I mean, unless I feel like having fucking raisins, if I'm in the mood to eat raisins, like, am I going to have some fun with a 67-year-old? No. But 35 years ago, that was a 32-year-old. 32 is nice. 67 is shriveled up prunes. So whenever you like Cena, you know, this is his final year. That's it. Am I kind of bored of Cena? Yes. Are SmackDown fans on a Friday night bored of Cena? Yes. You know how you know? I mean, unfortunately, you know, you can't get quarter hours for some reason. You know, it's funny. USA Network, you used to get quarter hours, you know, from the people who charge you money. Now they can't seem to get quarter hours for WWE. They always seem to get those quarter hours for AEW. You ever think that maybe, well, we're not going to go there today. But the point is, if you did get the quarter hours, you probably would see that when Cena comes out there to have his promos on SmackDown, there's no more 400,000 or 500,000 viewership increase and then a huge decline. There's not even a 250,000 viewership increase and then a decline once he goes off TV. He's not must-see TV anymore. So the people out there that over-dramatize this, Smitty, I wouldn't even pay attention to them. I wouldn't even pay attention to them. That's my God-honest tribute. God-honest answer. Reason why I said tribute is because Jim Con sent this just now. Said maybe the tribute show could have Kev's best comments and gags. See, the problem with that is we have 20 years of shows. I would have to go through, even if I went through 1 year of shows, each show is 2-3 hours long. And I'm going to have to play them on 2.5 times speed to try to find funny moments. I'll tell you this. What I may do is, because right now the vault is available on Patreon. That's not a money grab. It's just, it's too expensive right now to put it available for everyone unless we flood it with commercials. But if people want to start sending us clips from episodes that they with Kev, yeah, I'll put up an email address. If people are truly interested, then DM me on social media. Let me know. I'll put up an email address just for Kev clips, and we'll see how much come in. If enough come in to do a whole episode, sure, fine. But for me, I that's impossible for me to do. But you know, if people have favorite episodes and they remember clips, send them. And I got news for you. If you have a bunch of people doing that at the same time, makes it a lot easier. So it's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. The more I think about it, I think that definitely is something we could definitely work on. And Robert, by the way, I'm not doing blow. Anybody seeing me do this? You know what happened? I washed my face with this soap earlier. I forget that it's Cetical or Cetical. I don't know. It's a white bottle, begins with CET. And I don't know why, but like my face is itchy. You know, it just feels, it feels like I went carpet munching on a 67-year-old that didn't take a shower in a month. My face is itchy right now. So that's why I keep doing this. Robert Swanson, just wanted to thank me for always presenting information with research, facts, and common sense. It's something missing in this genre. I really appreciate that. You know, this is not pandering, but ever since I started this in 1997, I literally say this every time. I ain't nobody special. And the fact that you take your time, whether you're tuning in live or listening on a replay or downloading an old episode or when you used to call my hotline, you spend your good time listening to what I do. I think I owe you authenticity. I think I owe you honesty. I think I owe you my absolute best common sense that I could come up with. I'm not one of those that is going to piss in the wind and scream and cause all this drama and tease this and insinuate this and finagle this just to spark a conversation. You know, it's pathetic. And it's obviously a moneymaker for a lot of people, but you see it. Vince is going to launch this. Vince is going to do that. This is going to happen here. And this is happening in AEW. Mariah May is this, and this is an that, and R-Truth is this. And, you know, all these people just put things out there. You know, the R-Truth release was a Triple H call. You're like, how do all of a sudden you have fucking sources? You can't even get injuries right. Person's taking time off because they have no storyline. Meanwhile, the person's standing there with a fucking bolt in his neck. I can't even talk right now. I'm having neck surgery. You're full of shit. You're like, suddenly your sources are, yeah, Triple H. You know what their source was? Alberto El Patron. Yes, Mr. Big Nose. He's the one that let go R-Truth. I have it from reliable people. Mr. Big Nose did it. Do not listen to those people because this is their only way they think of getting your attention. Clickbait, headlines, fictitious this, my sources tell me this, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. You know, that's why so many people get it wrong. If some people would just use common sense, they would get so many things right and don't even have to say my sources say. Why were Kevin and I number one for so many years? We opined. We gave our opinions. We gave honesty. We used common sense. If you look at something, if it looks like a duck and it smells like a duck and it talks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, don't tell me that it's a fucking goose. And a lot of people will tell you it's a goose. So I'll never forget. I don't remember this show. And I know I brought this up before, but AJ Styles. I'll never forget it. You know, when AJ Styles first left TNA, you know, Kevin and I were very rough on him. Never thought he would succeed in WWE. And he proved us wrong very quickly. But he was so like upset at what Kevin and I said. He went as a guest on somebody's show and talked about Kevin and I saying this. And, you know, we kind of felt guilty about it, but we were giving our honest opinion at the time. And when he started succeeding in WWE, we were the first to admit we were wrong, but we were happy that we were wrong because we wanted to see AJ Styles succeed. You know, just that Blair Witch or Claire Lynch, whatever that fucking storyline is. And remember that storyline when he was disheveled and he looked more like Al Snow than a bum? Remember when she was showing up at TNA and his hair's all fucked up and everything? You know, there was points that we didn't like. But I'll never forget, about 6 or 7 years ago, AJ Styles, somebody reported that AJ Styles has re-signed with WWE. And AJ Styles, this is a true story, AJ Styles sent a message directly to the author of, or the webmaster of a wrestling news site. I don't remember which schmuck it was, but actually contacted them and said, listen, I'm telling this to you directly from me. I have not yet re-signed with WWE. He ended up re-signing, but he said, I have not yet. You know what that person said to AJ Styles? We trust our sources to be accurate. You basically told AJ Styles, here, Styles class this. And when I heard that, I'm like, I will never be that guy. You have the privilege of somebody correcting you, and you turn around and you tell that person you're full of shit. I'll never be that guy. I call out shit like it is. Like I said, you know, any little thing. I use common sense. Look at WrestleNomics. I have nothing but respect for their hard work because they do a shitload of hard work. You know, but the thing is, when they used to put the quarter-hour breakdowns on their website, you know, when people would repost it, don't repost it unless you credit us, and do not put our graph on this, and do not do this unless you pay for our stuff. And I was like, how come WrestleNomics never credits where they get the numbers from? I mean, we called them out for like a month and a half straight. Then suddenly, credit Nielsen. You know, simple as that. Like if you want, and listen, I will admit, back in the day, Kev and I credited nobody. But we didn't take credit for it. If we heard that Joe Blow fucked this person in the back to keep their job, we didn't turn around and say, WrestlingGossip.com broke this story and reported this. No, we would just say, hey, Kev, did you hear that so-and-so fucked that person to keep their job? You know, we weren't trying to steal people's shit. We didn't care who reported what. We would just react to it. And that's what we would do. What was it, Tiffany? Remember that infamous clip? It's on it. We played the intro like a week or two ago. Tiffany thanks WWE. She thanked Tommy Dreamer. She thanked this. And she thanked Billy Kidman for everything that he did. And then Kev says, and he also thanked him for pulling out. You know, like, we didn't report that WrestlingSchmuck.com broke the story. We would just say, Kev, did you hear Tiffany got released? Yeah, she made a statement. But I learned later on, you should credit people. That's why I credit people as much as I can. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I don't know who the original source is. You know, when you got 95 websites all racing on Twitter to be the first person to write the same thing, how do you figure out who wrote it first? You know, yesterday, you know, PW Insider said JBL will be at Worlds Collide. But then I look and I see somebody else wrote it a day before. And then I see this person wrote this. And then all of a sudden the next day, JBL is announced for another appearance somewhere else. I'm like, okay, who's going to break the story and say, my sources tell me JBL will not be at Worlds Collide? Sure enough, it's the same people. You don't know who the first person really is. All right. Rocky Red. Thank you very much, Rocky. Hey, yo, Rocky. Spot on with the We Want Cody. Very proud of that episode. That was the first episode Kevin and I did back as a full-time. He says, spot on with We Want Cody, Yes Movement, Yeet Moment, Kofi Mania, similarity with Truth. If this goes on, do they have to have him beat Cena for the belt? Listen, as much as I like R-Truth, that motherfucker did best with the goofy 24/7 championship. We don't need R-Truth to become world champion again. You know what that reminds me of? Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega was in Puerto Rico for Backlash. She took on Rhea Ripley. This was shortly after WrestleMania. And Rhea Ripley built a lot of momentum to get to that point. And I remember people saying, I can't believe they can't give the belt to Zelina Vega. That would have made that moment just the greatest moment of all time. Zelina Vega could have died the next day and it couldn't have got any better. And my reaction is, yeah, and you fuck up Rhea Ripley totally. For what? A split second feeling of other emotion? Sami Zayn fighting against Roman Reigns in Canada, I think for Elimination Chamber. And like, Sami Zayn, the momentum, he's got to win the belt. Sami's got to beat Roman for that. This is Sami's moment. This is this. No, that fucks up Cody and it fucks up the whole storyline that's been building for a year and a half. Why? So you could have that instant gratification. You know, I compare it to relationships. And when you have a relationship and you want to blow your load, you can't just sit there and say, jerk me off. And that's it. No, you might have to take the person out to dinner, buy some flowers, talk nice, lie about their family. You got to build it up and then you got to give something a little bit of foreplay. And then 3 hours later, then you might get something out of it. These people want, you know what? I'm in the mood. Let me just, I don't care what else is going, blow me alone. These people don't think. I don't care. R-Truth, oh my God, R-Truth, he's back. Give him the belt. He's got to beat Cena for the belt. Blah, 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 blah. No, he doesn't. These people want these moments of instant. This is not like that canned air stuff that's suddenly catching fire, like this canned oxygen. Hey, if I want a real quick hit of canned oxygen, you can't, these aren't hits. You can't, that's a hit. I need a hit. I got to have a hit. R-Truth, give him the belt. I got to have that hit. I need that. I don't care what, he can drop it tomorrow. Just give me that hit. Give me that memory. No. Not every memory should happen. R-Truth should not be world champion anytime soon. Why? Because he's popular? Because he's popular? I mean, there's a lot of people that have been popular that I've been a fan of that did not win no world title. I have to admit, none of them was Mr. Dupree, but, and I'm not talking about Max. These people want these instant hits, like the greatest hits that they could go back to whenever I need a quick pick-me-up. Oh, let me go revisit when this part, when you get that, when somebody cashes in a briefcase. You ever notice that nobody ever cashed in a briefcase, won, and got, booed? You ever notice that? There's nobody. Not one person has ever cashed in a briefcase who was a heel and got booed. People always jump out of their seats because of that instant reaction, like, oh my God, somebody's going to cash in. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Then, a few minutes later, oh no, what was I thinking? Yeah, Ramsford says even Jack Swagger got cheered. People want these instant moments that, might feel good at that particular moment, but no, I kind of compare it to Vince. Vince, you were better off just taking a picture of Janelle and going in the bathroom. If what's being accused is true. But for that split second moment for Vince, he could have ruined his life over it. Somebody told me many, 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 many years ago, no piece of ass is worth losing everything over. No piece of ass is worth getting in trouble over. And no instant little moment of wrestling gratification, feel-good moment is worth fucking up a whole big story. That's why the We Want Cody thing, people hated Kevin I for that episode. Literally, 2 days after Rock hugged Cody and Cody walked out of the ring, if you go back and you watch that SmackDown, the fans were cheering Rock. Fans were cheering Rock. Let that sink in. Cody hugged Rock and walked off, and then Roman was face-to-face with Rock, and the fans were cheering Rock. And 2 days later, Kevin and I went on our show, and they said, they ain't fucking throwing away 18 months of building We Want, Cody Rhodes and finishing the story. They're going to do a Daniel Bryan. They're going to do We Want Cody. And we predicted it. And it's proven. There's a recording. It's time-stamped and can't take that away. And people to this day are still convinced that The Rock was truly going to screw Cody Rhodes in that 18 months of build so he could beat Roman and then give up the belt and go to Hollywood, and then they do a tournament for the belt. I wouldn't even think AEW would do something that bad. Even old school TNA, that's worse than a reverse battle royal. Remember that? The reverse battle royal? Oh. Bobby Means is asking my predictions for both King and Queen of the Ring. We don't even know the participants yet. I have no idea at this point. And it could end up involving people that aren't even on the main roster right now. You might even see some people come in from TNA or AAA or NXT and get involved in a match somewhere. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. We don't even know the participants yet. Once we see the participants, then we'll get a feel. But I will say this. Remember, that happens in Saudi Arabia. I think people forget that Crown Jewel this year happens in Australia, which is just weird in itself. But King and Queen of the Ring is Saudi Arabia. Obviously, some of the names in the finals may not be somebody that you would kind of expect. The best one of them all. Remember when Gunther won and Nia Jax won? I'll never forget Busted Open. I think it was Dave LaGreca that was making this argument. Tomatunga should win it all. He's got all this momentum. He should go to Saudi Arabia. Huh? There's only one person, Gunther. Gunther, King of the Ring, Gunther. No, Tamatonga. Yeah. No wonder why Rock didn't accept your offer. You fucking... I don't have my sensor button available. Sorry. You know what? Gable could very well end up winning that. I think Gable could absolutely win it. But we got to see the participants first. Once we get the participants, then we'll figure it out. All right. We'll take some more questions, and then we'll get a jet. I think we'll wrap this up in like 15 minutes. Where does LA Knight go from here? He goes to SmackDown. Money in the Bank would have given him a change of scenery and opponents. Feels like he's floundering on SmackDown. LA Knight is not going to be a world champion anytime soon. Just not in the cards. Not everybody is world champion. Yeah, it could happen. Yeah, a couple of years from now. You know what's funny last week? Did you all see the websites all posting the Slim Jim commercial with LA Knight? Like, oh, it's so cool to see whoever it was, from NXT. Those commercials have been playing in gas stations for 7 fucking months. It's weird. Last week we talked about Camille, and people are like, why are you bringing up Camille? Nobody cares about Camille. Did you see the Wrestling News World the last couple of days? Suddenly Camille's a topic. And again, the LA Knight Slim Jim commercial. Last week, all these wrestling sites are putting it up. Like, we just finished talking about it. It's been in gas stations for 7 months. That's not a new commercial. But LA Knight, he ain't going to be world champion anytime soon. He is I kind of put him not in Randy Orton category, but he's one of those baby faces right now that will get a lot of wins on the house show circuit. But when it comes to big feuds right now, it's just not in the cards for him. Just not happening. I don't know if he should turn heel because he is still tremendously over. But even LA Knight, I think, knows being world champion is not in the cards right now. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of tired of seeing LA Knight doing the same shit all over again. They're going to do the draft later this year. Maybe LA Knight gets drafted to Raw. And there's your different crop of wrestlers. I don't know what you do with LA Knight right now. But putting a briefcase on him, I never thought that was the case. I always felt that it would come down to Rollins or maybe Americano. Benjamin says, with all of the craziness going on lately, does Brock show up and attack Gunther tomorrow just so he doesn't lose clean to Jay again? I think Brock will be back. This Janelle Grant lawsuit, I'm not condoning anything about it. But as I've said repeatedly, the only thing Brock Lesnar was guilty of was being kind of a shitty husband and a shitty father. And I think with his absence, Brock has really mended his relationship with his wife and his kids. His kids are old enough now to know, what's going on. In fact, I think his daughter could beat the shit out of him if she wanted to. So I think, Brock, WWE, it makes sense. WWE, you got to understand too, with the sale going on, they wanted to avoid as much negative publicity as possible. So Brock Lesnar was put aside for the time being. And listen, I've said this many times before. I think one of the biggest reasons why John Cena is retiring in 2025 is because Vince no longer owns WWE. I truly believe that. Vince is a second father to him. And as long as Vince still owned WWE, if he could do it and he felt good enough and it didn't conflict with schedule, I think Cena would always leave that door open for Vince because what Vince did for him. I don't even think there's an exaggeration with that. Brock Lesnar, I feel the same way. I think once that company was sold, Brock is like, that ain't fucking Vince's company. Well, it's same letters, different owners. What the fuck do I care about them? So there's a side of me that thinks, Brock doesn't need to come back if he doesn't want to. He doesn't have that tie with Vince. You know what's funny? Get a load of this. This coming week is the anniversary of Stephanie becoming interim CEO because Vince stepped down for a little while. Do you know a year ago, I think the same day or a day after Stephanie announced that she was coming back as interim CEO, Vince showed up on SmackDown. Some of you may remember it. Vince came out at the beginning of SmackDown, did a little rah-rah speech, and then walked off. We haven't seen him again. What a lot of you may have forgotten is not only did Vince show up on SmackDown after announcing he was stepping down for a little while and Stephanie was coming in, but Brock Lesnar made his return that night also. He attacked Roman Reigns, it's a 2-year anniversary. It's a 2-year anniversary? Might be a 2-year anniversary. I think it's a 2-year anniversary. It's either 1 year or 2-year anniversary. But Brock showed up. No, it's got to be 2-year anniversary. Brock showed up and attacked Roman Reigns. 2-year. You know what it was? It was not the Janelle Grant lawsuit. This was the precursor to the Janelle Grant lawsuit. This is when the board of directors were investigating $3 million of money that Vince may have used misappropriated funds. This was a year or so before the Janelle Grant lawsuit. So that scandal broke that the board of directors were investigating Vince. So Vince stepped down temporarily and Stephanie came back. And that same week, Vince shows up on SmackDown, the show that he still has the power, and Brock returned that same night. They went out to dinner later that night. So now with Vince no longer owning WWE, Brock has no loyalty, but Brock could still come back. Absolutely could still come back. And Brock, he's only guilty of being a shitty husband who almost slept with this girl. Didn't. Almost did. Didn't. That's the thing. It was weird because he's so close with Vince. People wanted to be convinced that Brock Lesnar did some fucked up stuff. The only person that Brock needed to answer to was his wife at the time, but he did not sleep with her. Tristan is asking, what did I think of the Undertaker Higher Power storyline? It was very good. I enjoyed the corporate ministry. I enjoyed Vince being revealed as the higher power. I think last week was the anniversary of something, but excellent storyline. Excellent storyline. But I don't know if Brock comes back this soon. But then again, you got Saudi Arabia coming up down the line. Saudi Arabia always wants Brock Lesnar. So they're getting closer to the expiration of this deal. And WWE needs to renew a deal with Saudi Arabia, and they will. But, if Brock could become available some way, shape, or form, sure, I could see Brock showing up. Maggie says the only reason Brock wasn't pissing all over Janelle is because a snowstorm stopped him, or he would have slept with her. He was also sharing videos of her with Vince. Well, the thing is that Brock was in town many other weeks. I mean, people fly in different areas just to go get a nice dinner somewhere. You're telling me that, Brock, hey, this is like Groundhog Day. This is like the eclipse. You only have this one day. It's either now or never, Brock. Shut up. January 17th. That's it. Doesn't happen again for 4 more years. You either fly down here now or that's it. Why didn't Brock show up a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later? This relationship went on for years. I mean, what stopped Brock any other time? He decided not to. Listen, with these millionaires, honestly, if I was a millionaire right now and a single person, and somebody said to me, hey, you want to come over tomorrow? But I live in California, and I was guaranteed to have a good time, and I really had that money, and I had some free time. What's stopping me from paying $200 and something to get on a plane? You take an Ambien, you sleep during the flight, you get there, and there you go. People fly every day. It's like what stop Brock any other week. So, Amo says he thinks many fans need advice, like you're saying. Could be very confusing to sit in people with the minute they realize they go back to their roots. You could personally believe what you want. Again, you got to use common sense. That's why I don't like to single out Meltzer, because I have a lot of respect for him, and he did some cool shit towards me in the past for different reasons. So I will never totally turn on him, but I'm a little amazed. I think it's pride. I really think it's pride. I think, sometimes you have so much pride that you refuse to admit that you don't have the sources like you used to. And he doesn't have to say that to anybody. But if Dave Meltzer spent more time giving his opinions instead of putting out statements that many times it turn out to be untrue. If you give an opinion and it ends up being wrong, you didn't do anything wrong. I never said it was a fact or news. I gave you my opinion. Do you think R-Truth resigned? My honest opinion, or why do you think R-Truth was let go? You know what? In my opinion, I think, TKO told Triple H, you got to cuddle a few people, and Triple H thought that was the first person to go. His salary was expendable. Simple as that. But instead, my sources tell me that Triple H made the call. Why would you even say that? You don't know. So, Rams fan is asking, how does Jey Uso versus Gunther end tomorrow on Raw? Maybe a DQ. Maybe somebody shows up and causes a no contest or a DQ or something. I don't see Gunther regaining the championship now. Jey Uso is still red hot. Jey Uso is still amazingly over, selling crazy amounts of merch. You don't try to fix what's not broken. But at the same time, though, you can't have Gunther tap out again. You can't suddenly make this that Gunther is this unstoppable beast, but his kryptonite is Jey Uso. You can't, you got away with it once. I don't think you could get away with it a second time. So there's got to be some outside circumstances involved. I just don't want to see anything stupid like Ludwig Kaiser turning on Gunther or I don't want to see stupid shit like that. If somebody shows up, maybe Sami Zayn gets involved. There, I'll go with that. We got SummerSlam not that far away. Maybe Sami Zayn inadvertently causes something or gets involved in, Oos, I thank you for having my back. Oos, but I didn't need you. Oos. Thank you, Sammy, but I didn't need you. Oos. I'm not saying it's going to happen just like that, but maybe Sammy gets involved. Let me tell you something. I don't want to see Goldberg show up tomorrow. I still think Goldberg could show up for Cena. This is your last year. What is it? The last time is now. Is that what he's calling it? I could see, Goldberg, the same thing. This is your final year. This is my final match. Your last. I could see that. Listen, if we could freeze time and Gunther's son was still 4'10" with really chunky nipples. Oh, that's what I wanted to bring up. Did you hear on Money in the Bank yesterday that Wade Barrett was saying that he could tell that El Grande Americano and Chad Gable are not the same person because of their nipples? And Michael Cole is like, in my lifetime, I've never analyzed anybody because of their nipples. And I was thinking of Jinder Balls. As soon as I heard Michael Cole bring that up yesterday, I said, Mike, you totally forgot about Jinder Mahal. Remember when Jinder Mahal came back and he had those really weird puffy nipples, almost like Tracy Lord's nipples, and people were like really examining him like, those nipples are from doing HGH, and that's what you get. And they were giving all these scientific things. And I'm like, this is weird. I mean, I fucking popped when Wade Barrett did that yesterday. Because I remember, we analyzed Jinder Mahal's nipples pretty good back in the day. That's a great episode to bring up for Kevin and I, when we were examining Jinder Mahal's nipples. But no Goldberg. If we could freeze time and Goldberg's son was still 5 foot tall with the big flabby tits and Gunther chopped him, then again, I'd probably close my eyes and hope it was was it the Whistler, the Rizzler? I think the Rizzler's kind of replaced my fantasy. Like back in the day, I would love it. I loved it when Hornswoggle used to get beat up. Remember when the lights went out and Vince was beating up Hornswoggle? That was amazing. That was mindgasms. I don't mean this literally, but I'm not even interested in seeing Gunther chop Goldberg. Like, are we going to learn from Saudi Arabia? Goldberg versus Undertaker? I mean, how many years ago was that? Now you're going to have Goldberg take on, Gunther? The ring general? Oh, no. No, I don't want to see that. No, I don't want to see that. All right. I tell you, Goldberg's son would beat the balls off of me right now. His son is jacked. His son, give him credit, man. He got himself jacked. All right, we're going to start wrapping this up. I'm going to jet. Don Stoney is asking, does Seth cash in on Jay after he retains? I think that's a little too soon. I think it's way too soon. I mean, I think Seth Rollins is going to show up on SmackDown and tease cashing in on John Cena, which would get a very interesting reaction from the fans. It's not going to happen. I could see Seth Rollins teasing that he could cash in on NXT. Not saying it's going to happen, but I could see them playing this a little bit longer. I don't want to see Seth Rollins cash it in this quickly. Didn't Drew McIntyre cash it in last year? Like the same day? I think it was last year or the year before. But within the last year or two, Drew won the briefcase and then cashed in literally almost immediately. I was like, well, there goes that with the briefcase. But it was still better than Carmella. Carmella, her run with the briefcase was the worst ever, with all due respect. So, no Pat McAfee ran tonight. Like we got Nikki Bella tomorrow and Pat McAfee. It's like, don't ruin my night. I will say this. It's funny now how on Raw they were censoring holy shit chants. And people, remember when they were going to Netflix before they even moved to Netflix? They're bringing back TV 14 and they were going to be able to do all this stuff. I think me, Kev, and Jason Solomon were the only 3 people that said, oh, these people are in for a rude awakening. You ain't going to piss off the advertisers. Even if they go to Netflix, it's suddenly going to be able to curse. Now, Pat McAfee, I swear to God, every time that prick yesterday, holy shit, fuck you. You either say it or you don't say it. He did that like 5 or 6 times yesterday. Holy sh! I heard Corey Graves at Worlds Collide yesterday, and I'm reminded why Corey Graves was so much fucking better than Pat McAfee. I'm not saying that Pat McAfee is a bad person. He's obviously a little bit of a pussy because he had to backtrack about United States and Canada because he doesn't want to lose an audience to this and that. Say what you want about Logan Paul. That motherfucker was a proud American, and he interviewed Trump and took it. And he turned around and he said, look, I'll interview Biden too. That would have been fun. But, you know, say what you want. At least that guy fucking stood his ground. You know, Pat McAfee is a corporate, you know, one of those. He's one of those corporate. Just because he doesn't wear a suit and tie doesn't mean he's one of those corporate suits. He is. You know, he will blow anybody he can to maintain his status. Corey Graves reminded me yesterday, Corey Graves is a wrestling guy. Pat McAfee is not. He's a wrestling fan, but he's a corporate guy first. That's what Pat McAfee is. And the reason why Pat McAfee will never be Corey Graves is because you could feel it with Corey. You know, with Pat McAfee, it just feels like the only reason why he's got that spot is because he's got that ESPN deal and the podcasting deal that he's got. If he didn't have those, you know, he would not be in that position right now. And I say that because if he was that good at what he does, he'd be in that position even if he didn't have those other spots. But he got so much fucking exposure. You know, WWE gets a rub every time that he makes an appearance. College football, college whatever it is. All right. Rocky Red says, thank you for the 5 spot. Between Lola Vice and Stephanie Vaquer doing the double devil's kiss and R-Truth yesterday, he thought about Kev being fans of both. Would I have liked Vampiro over Conan on commentary? No, you know, because Conan, he was never supposed to be like this polished, you know, let me put it this way. They weren't looking for Jesse Ventura yesterday. They weren't looking for an antagonistic heel. They wanted someone who represents AAA, who is very well respected, who the fans identify with. And Conan is coming off recently amongst the WWE universe of giving that beautiful induction speech for Rey Mysterio. And Conan is an integral part. Conan is more of a bridge between AAA Mexico and the United States. Conan is more of the bridge between the countries as far as WWE and AAA goes. Vampiro is not. And trust me, I was a fan of Vampiro back in the day. We have some fun stories about Vampiro we've told in the past, but no, I would not have put Vampiro in that place. Conan was the right person yesterday. He was never supposed to be this amazing, polished catalyst to Corey Graves. You know, I don't know what people were expecting yesterday. All right, let's take 2 more and we will jet. All right. Oh, yeah. Kevin Milwaukee can't hear Vampiro's name without the throwback to Oklahoma. Vampiro! 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 Ed Ferrara was fucked up, man. That shit was fucked up with the Oklahoma stuff. I'll never forget that when you came out and he had Steve Dr. Death Williams with him because obviously Dr. Death was supposed to go much further in the WWF and it failed because of Brawl for It All. And then they brought in Oklahoma, man. You look back on it, that's like one of the worst things I think wrestling has ever done, man. But, look, JR took it in stride, and JR has been abused quite a bit over the years. We talked about it last week. Everybody remembers JR kissing Vince's ass and getting beat up by Steve Austin and bloodied and having barbecue sauce doused all over him. What about the time where, they were in the hospital room and they gave birth to a Jim Ross head? Jim Ross's head was up somebody's ass. All right. Let's see. Dayhawk 666. Thank you for being a member of the family for 10 months. Why can't Triple H and TKO admit they made a mistake in releasing R-Truth? Is their egos that huge? They're trying to save face, but it's not working. Well, it's what I said earlier. You have to be very, very careful the power that you portray to the wrestling community out there. You know, the Daniel Bryan Yes movement was organic. It was on TV. Daniel Bryan was still part of the company. So he got further, and the fans felt that they were responsible for part of it. So you have the fans interacting with someone who still is there. When you had Cody Rhodes and Rock hugging him and walking off when Kevin and I covered it, it was very reminiscent to the Yes movement. You have Cody, who is there, that's been working his ass off for 18 months, you know, doing pretty much Dusty, if we're honest. And you're not going to piss that away. So you do We Want Cody. So when Cody gets the title shot anyway, it feels like the fans did this movement. You know, you honestly think Dave LaGreca and Busted Open decided not to do that rally in New York City because a couple of blocks away there was the protest with Palestine and Israel or where Gaza in Israel? Remember that? Remember that for people that don't remember? When Kevin and I predicted hashtag We Want Cody, Dave LaGreca wanted to do a rally in New York City that following weekend to support Cody Rhodes and go against Rock. And we brought it up like, very smart. Why are you there? Go down the block and be part of the protest. And they didn't do it. They rescheduled it for somewhere else. But the thing is that, you know, take note. This guy actually was trying to get people to get together and, you know, we want Cody and this is bullshit and Rock can't do that. And when Cody got his spot after all, you see, we knew, we did it. We had a movement. It's still real to me, damn it. It's not really real, but it feels real. And I act like this. The problem with R-Truth is if R-Truth is no longer in the company, and then you bring him back, and you have those same fans, yeah, we got Cody his title shot after all. Yeah, we did the Yes movement. Yeah, we got someone rehired. Every single person that gets let go later on, oh, we'll hijack the shows. We'll do the chants. We'll flood social media. We'll ask the questions on the, and we know if we all get together and we're all loud and blah, 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 blah. And you start causing a lot of distractions and a lot of fucking headaches. And then when people, you can't, what's that song go? You can't always get what you want. And then people will get extra angry. But the universe spoke out. We screamed, we ranted, we did the chants, we flooded social media, and you still let this person go. Life sucks sometimes. You know, so I think they don't want the fans to feel like they have that kind of power. And again, remember what I said earlier? I truthfully believe R-Truth is sticking around. But what if this is just like one of his final appearances and he truly, you know, the door's open. Like he's not under contract, but, you know, he's got a Legends deal. Or we got this, and you could still do other things, and you're still part of WWE. What if we find that out? You know, then you realize, oh, maybe Triple H wasn't hiding anything yesterday. But I think it's funny. For now, we just call him Pinocchio. 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 Vengeance. Welcome to the family, my friend. Signed up today. Much love, my friend. Vengeance FC. Shout out to Theme Parks and Things with Giannini. Man, Lola and Stephanie with a tag team that we never knew we needed. They were awesome, and kudos for working triple duty. She's amazing. I tell you, Lola Vice did much better than I thought she was yesterday. And let's give credit to Dalise and Chic Tormenta, you know, because they sold everything. And they knew that I think Stephanie really, you know, as far as WWE goes, she was the most over. You know, I think it was Stephanie, then Vikingo, and then Mr. Iguana. You know, Stephanie, it's amazing what a difference a year makes. It's crazy. like last week or the week before was the 1 year anniversary that Stephanie showed up on Dynamite. And this led to her and Mercedes Moné, I think, for Forbidden Door. And 1 year later, look at what she's doing. It's not a knock on AEW. It's just, you see what could happen sometimes. But Lola Vice, she showed yesterday that she can hang. And again, if you go back and you watch, props to Dalise and Chic Tormenta. I don't even have to look at a paper to remember their names because they were very good yesterday. You know, gritty veterans, and I like the backstories. You know, a lot of backstories yesterday. I like the education that they taught. And you know what was great about it? It makes you, it reminds you that it's not just the WWE bubble. You know, even though not everything is great, WWE now, they are more comfortable to acknowledge that, okay, there was more things yesteryear than just WWE. But just for the present, you know, there's no AEW, but, and Ryan, thank you for the 2 spot. Same thing with Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick was different because it was during the COVID era. It was more NXT. You know, his contract was much lower on the food scale. So Drake Maverick, it was not on this level. It felt like it was on a gigantic level because of COVID and because, you know, everybody was just looking for a feel-good moment. And Drake Maverick cried. If Drake Maverick never did that video, sorry, Cameron Grimes, didn't work for you. But when Drake Maverick was in that room crying on camera, it hit you, man. Kevin and I, like I said, we gave him $100. You know, like you felt, you really, really felt for him. Like this is a guy that, so that was a feel-good story. It was not on the level of R-Truth, but still a very good story. But this was not on the level where the power went to people's heads and like, because, you know, 40 other people got let go there in a year and the internet couldn't stop them. So, all right. I think we are caught up with everybody. By the way, I did not say this earlier, but Theme Parks and Things with Johnny is a member of the family here for 3 years and 7 months. Can't believe it's been that long. And 3 years and 7 months. I will be updating the video about, you know, like what you get if you become a channel member and everything. Later this week, I'll be announcing the winner of the predictions contest from yesterday. I haven't checked anybody's entries yet, but I do know I kind of feel bad for some of you out there because I sold quite a few of you about El Grande Americano winning the briefcase. But, you know, the Seth Rollins thing felt very predictable, but got to understand too, as I said earlier, I think most of us felt CM Punk would show up. Sami Zayn would show up. Like, there, if you were going to get Bronson Reed trying to help Seth Rollins or Braun Breaker, that you would get the opposite side. And in storyline, you know, that looks shitty, man. If we're being honest, look at that storyline. Everybody comes out to help Seth. No one comes out to counter them. So when you have Sami Zayn cut a promo and say, you need to win this, or you need to do this, you need to win money, we need to stop Seth. If Seth wins that briefcase and win, just think about that promo last week. Think about that. If Seth wins, then everything changes. And Sami Zayn didn't even show up to try to stop what those guys were doing. I mean, yes, we expect Sami to turn heel, but you know, you look at the conversations last week and then you see what happens at Money in the Bank. You're like, okay, is there something I missed here? Was there a Fafal truck outside that, you know, it's kind of like Roadrunner. Remember, you know, like Acme Birdseed this way? And Roadrunner's like, I ain't passing that shit up. Or better yet, hot piece of ass this way. And Vince's like, I'm going there. Like, what was there, a gyro truck outside? Oh my God, this food is amazing. You know, everybody had to stop and buy gyros, or Eros, as some people call it. Fafal, gyros, hot dog trucks, ice cream. I'm not going racial. I'm just saying, was there a special truck outside, a food truck? And people are like, oh my God. It's kind of like the steaks. Tony Luke's in Philly. One of the greatest things about going back in the days of ECW. You know, you go out fucking 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night, walk 2 blocks down, and you got Tony Luke's fucking steaks, sandwiches, Philly cheesesteaks. Nothing like eating that at 12:30. And trust me, I wish we had it tonight. So tomorrow when Nikki Bella pops up on Raw, I'm in that bathroom. All right. Maggie says, thank you. Thanks to chat. Enjoyed the show tonight. Had a shit week with the uncle. Was very down, and thanks for the laughs. Cheered her up. I appreciate it. Again, these are an escape for me also. I don't come in here with no scripts. I came with results. You guys could look. It's just nothing but a couple of match results. You know, I have an idea what we're going to talk about, but, you know, there's no prep like that. But I'm glad. Listen, you know, I'm still curious about the Rene Dupree thing earlier. I haven't mentioned this guy. I have a feeling somebody was just trolling earlier, but Mr. Rube Dog. There we go. Mr. Rube Dog. My thoughts on the Daphne Dark Side of Ring episode. I did not watch it. I will not watch it. I knew in advance that Crowbar was going to be on there and a few people that were going to, you know, make sure that Daphne's, you know, was going to be remembered in a very positive way. I won't watch the episode. I have no interest because there was a lot that I knew was going to be left out. I'm not insulted because some people tried to troll me and said, oh, you're just offended that you were friends with her for a couple of decades and they didn't even reach out to you about this, about that. You know, they glanced over on a lot of things, and trust me, you know, I don't want to get, you know, very, very raw here, but there was a few things that happened to her that really started getting her on an emotional downspin that led to, you know, other things. And then she had the car accident that she flipped her car upside down and in a, like a pond, you know, and she got fucked up really bad at that time. Obviously the stuff in TNA, you know, she had a couple of relationships go south really, really bad. There was a lot of things that built up, you know, but I heard from a few people that the show was done good. Like you're not left with, okay, it felt like they were just trying to, you know, like people said that they did right. Listen, ever since I started the shows, that always stays there. I will always have stuff with Daphne on my desk. I absolutely not, you know, she was a good friend and, you know, she definitely didn't deserve what happened to her. And it's sad, but I have no interest in watching the Dark Side of the Ring. I know what happened and what led up to it. I don't need a TV show to tell me that, but props to Crowbar and everybody else that was on it that did good. Trust me, there were others, I could say from Francine to April Hunter to a few others that absolutely would have loved, you know, paying a little tribute, but I don't think they wanted to be part of it either. So, but I haven't talked to any of them, so I could be wrong. I'm just saying. So, all right, everybody. I'm going to jet. I will be live. You know, I just said this too. You know, I don't know if I should open this as we were just talking about Daphne. This has been sitting here and for a reason. I never got a picture frame for it, but I want to shout out somebody very, very special. Tim Tapp. Wanted to make sure I got the last name right. He's an artist. And I haven't opened this. This is God honest, swear to God, never do a show again if I'm lying. He's an artist. And, you know, my memories of Daphne is when she dressed up as Wonder Woman. You even saw that clip 2 weeks ago. I even joked about Wonder Woman at the end of the video. And when I went to Chilla convention with her in 2002, she dressed up as Wonder Woman that day. And he drew a beautiful, beautiful portrait of Daphne as Wonder Woman. And I was so touched by it. And I said, Tim, I said, you know, if you ever sell this, let me know what you want. I said, I would love to have it and portray it. The only reason why I never put it in the back was because it looked like pencil art. And I always felt that you wouldn't really be able to see it behind me. But he said to me, goes, give me your address. I'll send it to you for free. So ever since Tim drew this in 2021, this has been sitting here. And I'm opening it literally for the first time. I'm not kidding. I'm opening it literally for the first time. And I hope that you see, like, it actually does. Looks like it does stand out. Tell me that's not beautiful. Tell me that is not beautiful. That's Daphne dancing in the clouds as Wonder Woman. It's beautiful. He sent me the original for free. I'm going to frame this. And it actually looks like it would, you know, I think, you know, maybe you put it over there, a little display. But if Tim happens to hear this or see this right now, I never forgot. This has been sitting here for almost 4 years. So trust me, we all miss her. We miss Kev, miss a lot of people. It's crazy. You look back a couple of years, how many people have left us, and tragically, you know, I mean, Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk the same week. My favorite wrestler of all time and my favorite wrestler in the last like 15 years, both gone like that. Not often that I cry on shows, and I remember crying on those shows. Those tears were real, man. I don't cry much, but you know, whenever that does happen, it trust me, it's never rehearsed. But I want to thank you guys for an awesome, you know, I tell you, it's really strange. The last 2 weeks, the shows feel different. I don't know what it is. I mean, I know we had a couple of tribute episodes for Kev. Still grieving, obviously. But I remember 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago saying, you know, like, going full-blown DTKC from now on. Not regretting anything, not holding back, being respectful, but not holding shit back, you know, not being politically correct, and just going raw like Kevin and I used to be. It almost feels like a little weight has come off my shoulders. I can't explain it, but I've had enough of you say to me, last week's show felt different, and people saying earlier, this show feels different. I don't know what it is, but I will tell you, the last 2 weeks, favorite 2 shows that I've done on a Sunday, without Kev, obviously, in a very, very long time. So we'll keep it going. We'll be back here next Sunday night, and hopefully you could join me, 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Long as the big man upstairs lets me hang around a little bit longer, because you never know, man. I'm not trying to be creepy, but you never know. Just like that, you know, something can happen. But let's keep our fingers crossed. I'll be back next week. But remember, I told you all, you have a promise. If I drop, you all could fucking take my shows, sell them, and do whatever you want with it. Whore me out. And if anybody tries to sue you for copyright, you got the timestamp. DT said, the Donzel Army and the Castle Comrades, you know, the shows are yours. You do whatever you want with them. But until I die, it's still mine. So I'll catch you all in the next one. Everyone, be well. Much love. And by the way, I updated our good family over on Patreon and our channel members here. So I will acknowledge you. The only person we don't have on the list tonight is Vengeance FC, because he just became a member. So next week, I will have you on here as well. So be well, everyone. Tomorrow night, I'll be live right after Raw. DTKCDiscord.com. DTKCDiscord.com. Live there. It's free. Join me right after Monday Night Raw. Be well, everybody. Much love.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.